Hey YouTubers, it's Steve again, coming from Rescape, my YouTube channel that seeks to aid and benefit people by helping them be more aware or informed on their fundamental perception of reality, and what that is and how that can aid or hinder them in their life and relationships, and based on what they perceive to be true, and then how that will allow them to do or be things they did not know they could do or be, as their fundamental perception of reality aligns with what's actually there in reality, and then also how when groups of people like this get together, they can change the course of human history. I think I figured it out. The reason Glow comes over to me when I'm doing these videos is because I start talking. It's my voice. That's what's doing it. She hears my voice and then she starts coming over here. So, because nothing else changes. It's me and my computer just sitting down and doing my work or whatever. So, but anyway, oh, come on, go. Boop, boop. Okay, so today I don't even know what part. This is gonna be hopefully this will be the last video on the natural state, but today is important because the natural state, ultimately what the natural state does, and I can't believe I haven't mentioned this before, but the natural state allows someone to love truly. And you hear things saying like, well, before you can love other people, you have to learn to love yourself. What I would tweak that and say, before you can love other people, you have to be honest with yourself. Because I know people that can be suicidally depressed and still love their brother or sister, because they know their brother and sister and that relationship's been there, and so there's things like that. So I don't think love of self necessarily predicates love for other people, like likes to be thrown, that phrase likes to be thrown around a lot. Maybe it's true, I don't know, I don't believe it is, but when you're in your natural state, again, if you haven't seen my other videos on natural state is basically, the simple way to put it is when people tell you to be yourself when you go out on a date and you're nervous, it's like, oh, just be yourself, and then you're yourself, but the problem is you may not like yourself. So most people aren't in their natural state, at least in modern societies, because people don't tend to like who they are, and so they try to hide themselves from themselves to make them feel better, or put on a show so other people will like them because they don't think they'd be likable if they were themselves. And maybe that's the case, and maybe they need to do some self-improvement. And then that's the other thing with the natural state, is that when you're in your natural state, you start to improve and become the person you want to be, but it can be hard because starting out, you may not be anywhere close to the person you want to be. And most people, don't even want to admit that to begin with, so they don't even know there is a natural state, because God forbid they ever end up there and actually have to confront yourself. But ultimately, when you even if you're not in the natural state very long and you still don't like yourself, and maybe people won't like you, but generally they do, more than you think, and more than maybe than even they did when you were pretending to be something you're not. But even towards the beginning, what will happen is this: somebody, let's say you get in conflict. People get in conflicts all the time because there's always an argument over who's right. But when you're in your natural state, you understand that it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what is, and you understand what is. So if someone says, "Yo, you're a mean person," then you think about it, and you're like, you know what? You're right. I am a mean person. Wow, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And they're not humoring the other person, and they're not saying that to try to de-escalate conflict. They're not doing that for ulterior motive. They're literally, just by being in the natural state and being aware of the truth of reality, they can be like, yeah, I am a mean person, so it bypasses everything. And what this does, it makes it so, and this can be anything. It can be like I have a problem at work, like the girls there think I'm arrogant, so I don't know, how would they think that? I don't know, but I don't conflict on it, because I do know there's a part of me that's really cocky, and so I just acknowledge, I understand what they're talking about. Being in touch with my natural state, I know exactly what they're talking about, and so there's no conflict. And then what it turns out is that they don't care about me being arrogant, so they just wanted to point it out. And then, if in normal circumstances, I would have been defensive or whatever. But then the other flip side of that coin is people will purposely not be confrontational because they want to convince themselves how non-confrontational they are and how in touch they are with themselves. So, and the way that this works is, it has to be like, you can't even be thinking about it. Like, the only reason I'm thinking about it right now is because I had to think of something for this video. Like, when this stuff happens, when you're operating in truth, it's all in the background. Like, your conscious mind's focused on important things, and then these other things about like not conflicting, because you understand that you are like every possibility. Like someone, maybe like Steven the murderer. Well, I've never murdered anyone, but I'm sure there's like a 0.02%, or maybe more, maybe a lot more than I don't even realize right now, of me is a murderer. And so if anyone ever comes, if a situation arises where someone says, Steve, like, don't kill that person, and then I'll be able to check myself. I won't be like, oh, I don't, that's not me, I don't kill people. It's like, oh wow, I really was going to kill him, and I can do that, and it's completely, you know, no defensiveness, complete honesty, and that's what you get. That's the power of being in the natural state. Is that it's the opposite of conflict. It's the end of conflict, because there can't be conflict into being in the natural state. As soon as you start to conflict with yourself or other people, you're no longer aware of yourself. So what if someone brings a false accusation? Let's say, like, I know, for as far as I know about myself, I'm very authentically genuine. So when someone says that I'm being dishonest, that will sometimes get me defensive, because that's a trait that I hold highly not to have. But then say I'm actually not being dishonest, then what do? Well, do I explain myself to them? It's like, no, I just ignore the whole thing. It's like, it's not even, it brings me no interest to be a part of that conversation for or against it, to the point where I just ignore it. Like, they'll say something, I'll be like, what was that? And then they'll say it again, I'll be like, oh, okay. And again, this isn't me, cognitively figuring out a way to get around it. Like, this is me doing other things, and then that just happens to come up, and then it's not there anymore, all in the background, all naturally, again, because of being in the natural state. One of the things the natural state will do, again, once you understand you have the potential for all possibilities, when, again, I guess going back to the murderer thing, when I saw a kid in a courtroom who was convicted, like 16 or 17-year-old, for one of the school shootings. I don't know if it was a major one, and there was just this look in his eyes, just like, holy shit, like, that's evil. You could just tell by looking at his face, he was really bad. And then at one point, when he was convicted, he told the family members in the courtroom of the kids or one of the kids he killed, that basically very quickly, how he shot him, and how he would be pleasuring himself to that for all the years that he'll be in jail or something. He said to the whole kid's family. And the way he said that was with such sneer and glare, and like you just have to see the picture. It was literally like a demon was coming out of his face. And there's always the extent, like people will forgive each other to the extent they can understand each other. And I believe love can surpass understanding, but to really get to the point where you're in your heart for forgiving someone, like, I think there has to be a sense of some sort of oneness. But then as you go further and further down the spectrum of evil, it's like looking down into the ocean. Like, it gets darker and darker, and then eventually you can't see anymore. And so he was down there where it was just like I don't even know, like, if you're a member of that family and you were a Christian, you're supposed to forgive people, like, that's going to take some time. And then in being in the natural state, I could be like, okay, well, I know that face. Where have I felt that face before? And then very truly, if you can find that place inside you, I could have a conversation with that kid about him shooting up that school, and like trade tips and things like that. Like, I could bring that part of myself up and not damn myself, because having an extreme level of self-honesty, that when I was done with that conversation, I would put it away and maybe never bring it out for the rest of my life. But it's there. It is there. And again, the further down the ocean you look, the further into the abyss you look, you start looking into the void, or, and then the monster looks back at you, and then you realize that you're the monster or whatever. But in the natural state, as you are in that state, when situations like that arise, like, I may have been the only person in that courtroom that could have associated with that teenager or whatever as a human being. Maybe the only person watching that entire television series. Like one of the things that Christians will say is, oh, I'm a lowly and sinful human being. But are you saying that because that's what a book tells you to say, or can you associate with the school shooter? Because if you say you're a low and sinful human being and deserve damnation, that's what you're saying. So put the money where your mouth is. Let's go play poker. It's like, anyway, drawing it way back. This is the natural state. The natural state literally allows me to do that and not judge myself. And some people watching this video might judge me for thinking I can do that or something like that. But again, it's like, you'd have to be in my shoes, and you don't know who I am. And everybody knows he's evil. The kid knew he was evil. He knew he was evil. He just didn't care. So, and then the last thing this allows you to do with the forgiveness, when you have the lack of conflict in your natural state and you understand someone, you forgive them, then what that is, like, what gives you the right to forgive someone? If someone does something bad and breaks the laws of justice of the universe, how then you as one person give them the right to say you are forgiven? And this was raised a lot in Jesus' day, but the thing is, what you have to understand, it's not, I used to think it was because it was forgiveness to yourself, like someone did something wrong to me, and so I can forgive them for me. But what it really is that you're matching them. So whatever they are in that point in time when they're doing something wrong, you're matching that state. You're taking that from them, whatever. And so now they're, whatever they had in them that made them, so whatever they were doing, the wrong thing, isn't in them anymore. It's in you. And then you can do that because you know God forgives you. They didn't know God forgave them. If they knew God forgave them, they wouldn't have been doing that bad thing. So you take it for them, and God forgives you. And that is how forgiveness works, from when you forgive someone in the name of Jesus Christ. And also it can only cleanly occur in your natural state, because you have to have that clean connection to God and that clean connection to the person, both at the same time. So there's that. This is Steve. This is Rescape. This was a weird post. Anyways, a little longer than normal, but I think this will be the last one. But wrapping all back up to love, you're able to love people like school shooters in the most supreme evil of a person. You're able to love them because there's a small piece of you that you're aware of that you can then use to reach out to them, because you're in your natural state and you don't judge yourself, because the natural state is being self-honest, and then you can reel them back in, because they may not know God, or they may have lost contact with God, but you still have contact with God, and because you're in your natural state, you still have contact with Him. And so that's a very strong kind of love. But anyway, I will see you guys next week. If you have any questions, post the comments, and see you later. Bye.